Hello everyone. So welcome back to our next video, which is on basic Scrum Master interview. So this is a basic level question, so not to worry. Uh, but if this you are not clear with amongst yourself, then you may be in a trouble. So what I can request you here is that uh, do read these questions before going to interview. I will be creating multiple videos on interview questions that will be scenario type, that will be having a deeper conflict resolution mindset questions, and also people management, agile management. So trust me, I will be preparing lot many videos from now onwards on advanced, but this is a basic one. So before we jump onto the advanced one, it's good we should have a quick glance before jumping, right? Okay. So again, welcome back to CrushTheCert.com. So we help individuals who want to uh, complete the PMP certification, Salesforce certification, and Scrum Master certification. So currently we are focusing on Scrum Masters. If you need any help with the PMP or Salesforce, do reach out. Also, for the Scrum Master, we also help individuals, and also in the Salesforce also, we help individuals to transitions from either from non-IT or from other background into Scrum Master roles. Uh, that's how we train for interview also. So it's not only that we leave our followers to the certification. Certification is easy. You can refer anywhere on the YouTube and learn that and clear that. But after certifications, there are very few kind of like a coach or teacher or say whatever you want, mentor who actually handhold you and clear the interview and guide you which opportunities are for you. So let's do, yeah, if you need any help to reach out and visit scratchthesort.com. We will be more than happy to assist you if you have any questions. Thank you. Okay, so let me just give me a minute. Okay, so let's start our first question, which is what is Scrum? So, guys, I will give you a moment to think and then answer. So, if you can pause the video for a second or two and think and come back and hear the answer, which I will be telling you. Okay, so I believe you have paused and you have thought the answer in your mind, and I'm now revealing the answer. So, Scrum is an agile framework used to develop, deliver, and sustain complex products through empirical process control. So I may know that sometimes this definition becomes hard on you, becomes difficult for remember. So what I can suggest you here is that you can uh, divide it into two parts. Like, you know, Scrum is a framework. So yeah, so the interviewers really need to hear this framework keyword from you. So agile is also something they want to hear from you because at the end, designations are somewhat like Agile Program Manager or Agile Project Managers, or Scrum is an Agile framework. So yeah, so just keep remember these two words. It's so important. That's why I have written, okay, used to develop, because this is something you will be into, like helping team to develop, deliver, and sustain. It's something like it's pretty easy. Like first you develop, then you don't keep what is developed. You need to deliver that in order to complete the project. And maintenance or sustainability is also important. Okay. So it's complex product. Remember, complex products is also important keyword to empirical process control. So if you remember empirical, we have heard that there are pillars which are, if anyone know, okay, so they are transparency, okay, then we have inspection, and then we have adaption. So just keep an eye on these three pillars every time if you find a situation where you can tell the interviewer about empirical process. Uh, yeah, to tell them they really love all these languages. So the clear-cut answer is that no doubt, no doubt, it's hard to remember, but still have to remember. Okay, so let's give me a second. Okay, so now let's again revisit it. So Scrum is an agile framework. Remember agile framework used to develop, develop, deliver, and sustain complex products through empirical process. Okay. So the question, the main intent is that you need to remember what is Scrum. You can use any language you want, but remember to use a framework, agile framework, and empirical process control and complex product. Develop, deliver, sustain up to. Okay. So what are the three roles in the Scrum? Just quickly pause. Okay. So if you have paused the video, the answer is pretty straightforward. You already know this. Product owner, Scrum Master, and developers. So developers can include actual developers, dev team, testers, okay, BA. So the thing here is it can include the SMEs. So it depends, but we call them a single word, which is developers here. Okay. So this is a pretty straightforward answer. It may or may not be asked, but you need to remember before going for an interview. Okay, what are the Scrum events? This is again very much important. Just pause the video for a second and come back on. I believe you have paused, so the answer is pretty straightforward. So sprint is a container for all this sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. But we also count this sprint as a Scrum event, right? So it's 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So remember, it's 5. So whenever you lose the track, just remember 5 and count whatever is left. Okay, sprint, say sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, sprint retrospective. Okay, we have already made the video on how to read Scrum Guide. You can have a quick check. I have explained all these 5 events in detail. Okay, let's jump on to the next. What is the role of the Scrum Master? That's a very, very important question because you will be interviewing for Scrum Master, so you know your role very, very clearly. Just pause the video and come back. Okay, so let me reveal the answer here. Okay, so Scrum Master is to, like, if you want to use a word servant leader, you can use that. It's mostly used, servant leader. Okay, so to serve the team by facilitating Scrum practices, that's important. Okay, removing impediments and coaching team members. So it's a it's a crystal clear answer. But what you can do here is Scrum Master serves the team by facilitating Scrum practicing, coaching the team on Scrum values, Scrum principles, removing impediments, making sure that the team is aligned towards sprint goal, in every Scrum events, the Scrum team is maintaining the good practices of the Scrum and are focused on the product goal and uh, overall sprint goal. So yeah, so just if you want, you can use this also. But the key here, which I'm trying to say here, is that it's facilitating Scrum practices, right? Removing impediments and coaching team. Just remember these three. That's very important. So Scrum practices includes like Scrum events, right? Facilitating the Scrum events. So yeah, just remember Scrum practicing, removing impediments, and coaching team members. Okay, let's hop on to other one. Okay, what is a sprint? So just pause for a second and come back on this. Okay, so it's the time to reveal the answer. So sprint is a time boxed iteration, usually 2 to 4 weeks, during which a usable increment is created. So here I would like to tell you there are two important keywords, iteration and increment, right? So in sprint, like in Agile, we are iterative process and iterative and incremental, right? So if you have heard, I'm sure you have heard of iterative and incremental to take together. So just remember, this sprint we are talking about, it is a time box iteration, right? So when we say iteration, it will be keep on repeating. And in every iteration, there will be a usable increment created, right? So it's pretty simple. It's a clear short answer, a time box iteration, usually 2 to 4 weeks, during which a usable increment is created. You can use a simple language, but the essence should mean the same, that an iterative and incremental. So iteration should be the iteration, like, yeah, sprint is a time box 2 to 4 weeks iteration during which a usable increment is created. So if there is no usable increment is created, the sprint is not achieving the sprint goal, thus it's not valuable. So that's why these two words are very much important to remember, increment and iteration. Okay, what is a definition of done? Again, guys, this is a basic question. So trust me, they may or may not be able, may ask, but you should be knowing before you go into interview. I will be creating an advanced video uh, you may see in the playlist, and just refer to that series of advanced video that will be very helpful. So what is the definition of done? Just pause the video and come back. Okay, so definition of done is a shared understanding of what it means for work to be completed. So in short, you can understand this as a quality measure, which against which, like, if a work or a user story is completed, this user story needs to be measured against the definition of done. That's a quality measurement. Like, it's a kind of a shared understanding of the stakeholders, right? And when our user story meet that definition of done or quality measure, increment is created. So we count increment only when it meets a definition of done. So it's is a shared understanding. So it's not something like I believe that it will be a measure, quality measure, then it becomes a definition of done. No, it is a shared understanding of what it means for work to be completed, right? For example, in my last project where we were having uh, like a community web, like we were building a community place for all the Salesforce experienced individuals. We were having we need to have a download CV functionality. So in that download CV functionality, that CV needs to be comply with, that there are uh, robotic testing, or it should be comply with the standard format which computer reads. So like in that scenario, that definition of done means that that CV should comply with the robotic testing. So it means that whenever the CV is downloaded or put into some softwares, it should read it like digitally. It should not throw that. So that means it's a definition of done. So it's a shared understanding of what it means for work to be completed. Okay. So what is difference between Scrum and Kanban? It's usually asked also. So it's pretty easy. Scrum is again like my favorite. Scrum is iterative with fixed length sprint. Okay. And Kanban is flow-based approach with no fixed iteration. So here you need to remember the keyword here, fixed length, iterative, right? So iterative will be keep on coming up because Scrum itself follows the work needs to be completed in sprints. So sprints are iterative time box iterations, and they are with a fixed length. Kanban, whereas follow no fixed iteration, it's a flow-based approach. So just remember this flow-based approach. This is very much important. Okay, let's hop on to the next one. How do you handle conflict in a Scrum team? Yeah, pause the video for a second. Okay, so the answer here is pretty generic. It's facilitating open communication, right? This can be used in most of the answer where a conflict word is asked. So by facilitating open communication, encouraging collaboration, and using retrospective. So when we see a situation where a team is conflicting, we should have a retrospective on communication, right? And make sure that team listens and an action item is created so that teams improve in next sprints, right? Okay, so it's pretty easy by facilitating open communication, right? So when there is a conflict, we need to facilitate open communication, encouraging collaboration, and using retrospective. We should, the Scrum Master should always tell the team about the Scrum practices, like Scrum value, Scrum pillars, and how these are important for us to deliver the project using Scrum. So when the team is aligned with all those Scrum guidelines, Scrum principles, Scrum values, Scrum pillars, uh, so they would be able to understand, and they would because if I talk about Scrum values, we have the Scrum value of openness, right? A courage, a respect, right? So if we need to reiterate the team about the Scrum values so that they can be aligned, and together we can achieve uh, our product goal. Okay, what is a sprint goal? Just pause for a second and come back. Okay, I believe you have paused. So a single objective that provides focus for the sprint. So if you remember in the sprint backlog, when we created sprint backlog, there were three things which were a part of the sprint backlog. One was, tell me if you remember. No? Okay. Okay. So there are three things. One which was the items which pick from the product backlog into this sprint. Then secondly, plan to complete those items. And the third is sprint goal. So the sprint goal is a single objective that provides the focus for the sprint. So what it means is that every day, like in the daily scrum, the developers are meeting, right? Their conversation should be focused only and only on the sprint goal. And if they are facing any blockers, impediments, they should discuss that and try to uh, achieve the sprint goal and with a minimum disruption. Okay, let's go towards, if you do not remember anything, just go and watch my videos on Scrum Guide. It's pretty easily, I have explained them, taking a lot of time. Okay, so how do you deal with an uncooperative product owner? That's a very situation based, but just think for a while and pause the video and come back. Okay, I believe you have paused. So the answer is build repo, clarify roles, and involves stakeholders or leadership if necessary. So I want to add here is that if you are feeling that product owner is not cooperating, so what you can do is you can have a setup a one-on-one, and you can like bring the like guide the fundamentals of the Scrum about the Scrum values, Scrum pillars, Scrum principles to make the product owner understand about the Scrum values such as openness, courage, right, respect. So that the stake like product owner is aware that if we need to achieve the complex products or like needs to complete the complex project, we need to follow the Scrum because when we need to follow the Scrum, we need to follow that completely. We cannot skip one or two elements. So product owner is a crucial part because he is the one who is responsible for the product goal or managing the product backlog. So the thing here is he needs to be a part of the Scrum team where he should encourage openness, like a good communication, so that the team can participate in sprint, backlog grooming, sprint planning, daily scrums, and sprint review. So all these Scrum events, uh, the the thing here is the product owner should be so much involved and cooperate with the Scrum team so that they can be sure and confident about the sprint goal and the product goals. Right? So uh, he should build repo, clarify the roles, make the product owner understand about the Scrum values, Scrum team, Scrum uh, pillars, Scrum principles, Scrum artifacts, so that he is aligned what exactly the Scrum means and how it will be very crucial for the project to follow the Scrum and complete the project. And only the resort here is to involve the stakeholder if your one-to-one or if you have tried all the resorts but it's not working, then you can reach out to the leadership team or involve the stakeholders. Okay. Okay. What is backlog refinement? So it's very important because it usually can happen. Like for me, it happens every week, Tuesday and Thursday for 1.5 to 2 hours. So yeah, take a pause and answer this. Okay, I believe you have paused it. So product backlog refinement is a continuous activity where the Scrum team, I will come on this. So, but I will like to pause here because it says a continuous activity. That's what I was saying you before. For me, it happens like twice a week because it's a continuous process because there are product backlog items which needs to be completed and completed into increments. So these product backlog items needs to be groomed. Their user stories needs to be prepared with all the acceptance criterias, all the references, all the dependencies, any images, reference images, or any UI, UX, or any wireframing. All it should be complete, crystal clear requirements needs to be done. Uh, Also, for that, we need to, because sprint is an iteration, right? It will be keep on iterating. For that, we need to be like, if we know our sprint velocity is 30 user stories, right? So we need to at least prepare the stories for at least 30, I mean, almost for 4 weeks. We need to have the stories of 60 points ready with us so we can whenever there is a sprint planning, we can take out and put that into the sprint backlog. So it will be a continuous activity. Just remember, okay, and where the Scrum teams add more details, right, to the backlog items, right, product backlog items, explain what needs to be built, estimate efforts, right, how much time it will take. That's the user stories. I mean, the stories, sorry, user points. Prioritize the list. Put the most important item at the top, right? In a simple word, it's like a cleaning and organizing your task list so that when it's time to work in the sprint, everyone knows what to do and how important it is. So you can take this as a backlog refinement is something like it's a continuous activity where the developers, the Scrum team participate to make sure that the developers are already aware what all items or sorry, backlog items are there and how much they will come with an answer about how much effort it will take and what more details are needed or any blockers or anything which needs to be uh, are pushing these stories back. So it's kind of a reprioritizing also. Yeah. So just remember this product backlog refinement is a continuous activity where we need to add more details to the backlog items, estimate efforts, prioritize the list, the cleaning and organizing your task list so that when it's the time, everyone knows what to do and how important it is. Okay, let's go to what are Scrum artifacts. Pause the video. Okay, so let me reveal the answer now. It's pretty easy. Product backlog, sprint backlog, and increment. I have also, there's a Scrum guide on the Scrum artifacts and their commitments. So if you need some more explanation to watch that video. Okay. How is velocity calculated? So before this, I also told about many times about the sprint velocity. So just pause the video. Okay, I believe you have paused the video. And now we can tell about those velocities. So it's the average, the number of story points completed in the past sprints, right? So every sprint, how many story points were completed? The average of those story points in the past sprint, right? So it's pretty easy. Okay. What is the role of Scrum Master in the sprint planning? Okay, that's important. So just pause the video. I believe you have paused the video. Now let's reveal the answer. Okay, so to facilitate the meeting and ensure the team sets a realistic sprint goal. That's 100% correct. So if you want, I can elaborate this answer. So Scrum Master ensures that all the team member, Scrum team, and if there's a requirement for SME, they are first of all invited at least 2 days in advance. So these all the team members participate in the meeting, right? And the product owner has already completed the backlog refinement and also the all the stories which we have on the priority, they are groomed and all the details such as dependencies or any reference UI, UX or wireframing has been completed in the stories. Okay. So now the team is working towards the sprint goal, planning the sprint goal, and all the necessary product backlog items are being taken into that sprint backlog, and developers have the plan complete those items. So the Scrum Master goal is to make sure that they set a realistic sprint goal based on their sprint capacity and their past historical sprint velocity. So they should not overcommit and underdeliver. So overall, Scrum Master role is to make sure that the sprint planning follows the Scrum principles, Scrum uh, like Scrum principles and uh, Scrum values. Everyone is respecting each other. Everyone is speaking out. So if there is something which developers needs to uh, tell about those stories, if they find any blockers, impediments, they should come out and tell those in advance. So overall, uh, at the before the end of the meeting, the sprint backlog is prepared and there is a plan to do those items with the developers and the sprint goal is finalized. So this is overall role of the Scrum Master. So if you want to remember in the nutshell, to facilitate the meeting and ensure the team sets the realistic sprint goal, right? Okay. What is common mistake in daily Scrum? Just pause the video and come back on this. Okay, I believe you have paused the video. Okay, so the answer here is using it as a status meeting rather than a planning session. So it's very common mistake. Uh, the the daily Scrum is for the developers, so they can come forward every day and they can communicate what is blocking them or what like they are all aligned towards the sprint goal. So they just take it a chance to check the status amongst each other rather than a planning session, like how they will complete a like to plan if there are anything which is stopping them to achieve the sprint goal, right? So they should talk about on the dependencies, on the blockers, on the impediments which may stop them from achieving the sprint goal. It should not be treated as a status meeting. That's the common mistake. Rather than it should be a planning session for removing any impediments, dependencies, or blockers. Okay. And it's also a Scrum Master responsibility to uh, keep an eye if there is any impediments or blockers. They should, like Scrum Master should step it into the daily Scrum and try to resolve them. Okay, so let's go to the next question. How do you ensure continuous improvement? It's an important one. So just pause the video for a second and come back on this. Okay, so let's reveal the answer. So by conducting effective sprint retrospective and following up on action items, so that's very much important. So if there is something which is holding our sprints to achieve the maximum uh, like efficiency or maximum velocity, uh, then what happens is that uh, the Scrum Master role here is to make sure that this is taken care in the sprint retrospective and there is an action item created and there is a rigorous follow-up on the action item so that the team is aware that this is being worked on and they have to improve on that particular action item. So it's like a following up is very much important. So the answer here is by conducting effective sprint retrospective and following up on action item which was created in the sprint retrospective. What is an increment? Although I just told you briefly in the last few questions. Okay, let's do this again. What is an increment? Just pause the video. Okay, let me reveal the answer now. So the sum of all the completed work during a sprint plus the past work which was completed in the previous sprint, it all adds up as an increment. Increment will be only considered if it meets the definition of done. So the sum of all the completed work during current sprint and the previous sprint, which meets the definition of done. So yeah, that's an increment. Okay. Okay. So what metrics do you track in Scrum? So just pause the video for a second and come back on this. I believe you have paused the video, so let me reveal the answer. So it's sprint velocity, 100% correct. So the amount of the work a team completes in the sprint, it is measured in story points or hours. Okay. Then, okay, it helps predicts how much work can take the team can take in future sprints. If the team consistently completes 30 points per sprint, you can plan accordingly. Okay. Burn down charts. It a visual graph showing how much work is left to do versus time, right? Okay. It shows us if the team is on the track to finish the sprint goal. If the line is dropping steadily, you are progressing well. If it's a flat line, there may be a bottleneck. So you can consider this as okay. So like if it is going like this is actually a good. So what happens is there is that this is the time, right? Okay, right? So how it was like this is kind of a work. Okay. So if it's because we have a certain time, like it's 2 weeks, right? If it's 2 weeks, okay. So you can't go beyond that. So if it is steadily dropping, that means you are progressing well and the sprint goal will be finished by the end of the uh, we will be achieving the sprint goal by completion of the sprint. But, 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 but if if this is going like this and then it becomes flat. So there needs something to be done because that means that the work will not be get completed, right? The work means user stories here, right? All user stories because we in the Scrum we define the work into the we break the work into the user stories. The most kind of user stories are the smallest uh, like a feature of work which needs to be done in like they are intentionally created into 1 to 2 days work. So user stories. So if yeah, okay. So it yeah. So if it's flat, it's not a good sign, and someone needs to be like Scrum Master needs to step in and make sure that if they should participate in the daily Scrum and try to resolve any blockers, impediments, which is causing that flat line. Why it's not because if it means that from here this is kind of there is no progress, so they should step in kind of here only. If right, okay. So now you know about the burn down chart. It's a visual graph showing how much work is left to do versus time. Quickly shows if the team is in on track, finish the sprint goal. Okay, if the line is dropping steadily, you are progressing well. If it's flat, there is or maybe a bottleneck. Okay, the team satisfaction, it's a soft metric, right? There is one more completion ratio, not to worry. Yeah, okay. So gathered we have survey or feedback to measure the morale or happiness. It's important kind of thing to check how the team is motivation level is of the team. Okay. So a happy team is usually more productive and low satisfaction may point to burnout or process issues. A simple anonymous score of 10 after each sprint, like how the sprint went, it's kind of a measure. So one more is one is the completion ratio. Okay. So how much like story points the team planned and how much they completed. Okay. So it's kind of a ratio. Like they committed versus planned. So it tells us how much it was completed. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So these are all, yeah, these are all the metrics. Let's go to the next. What are some anti-patterns in the Scrum? Okay. So just pause for a second and come back on this. Okay. So the answer is skipping retrospective, assigning tasks, over committing, and lack of cross functionality. So these are all anti-patterns. So we should not miss any Scrum events. That's compulsory, that's a mandatory. The team here in the Scrum team is self-managing. So you do not need to assign any task. They are self-managing team. The team should not commit over commitment in the sprint planning. Uh, so that's the Scrum Master responsibility that the team is not overcommitting and they are setting a realistic sprint goal and the team should be cross-functional as that team the as the Scrum defines that the Scrum team is a cross-functional and they are enough for completing that sprint goal, right? So this is an anti-patterns. So how do you coach a new Scrum team? Oh, where's the answer? Oh, okay. How do you coach a new Scrum team? So just pause for a second and come back on this. Okay, I believe you have paused. So the answer here is by educating them on Scrum values, facilitating early events, and leading by an example. So yeah, as a Scrum Master, our role is to like coach them of Scrum fundamentals, Scrum pillars, Scrum like Scrum values, how the Scrum team function, what are the Scrum events. If the team is new, they can conduct some mock Scrum events, and they can lead by example and monitor one or two sprints and coach them whenever there is whenever there is necessary. So yeah, so this is all, guys. So this was the last question, and I believe you have learned something from this basic examples. So this is not something which may or may not be asked, because this is something a very basic. This should be, you should already know this. I will be preparing advanced multiple questions. You can read those and watch those. That will be really helpful. This will be and they will be and situational based, so it will be helpful. So thank you again for watching the Crush the Cert YouTube channel, and see you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.